What would you say to those who are just kind of overly critiquing the film at this point? You've worked so hard on it. All right. Congrats, Rachel.
Disney's live-action Snow White is finally here, and it's already heading straight for disaster. The backlash is fierce, the buzz is ice cold, and all eyes are turning to Rachel Zegler. Because if this movie crashes, she might be the one left holding the blame. The real problem? It runs way deeper than just the lead actress, and the numbers tell a brutal story.
Oh my gosh, I saw well, we didn't even see, but I saw the logo and I went, that's my name, Snow White's up there, and I cried my eyes out.
So, how did Rachel Zegler's Snow White turn into this kind of disaster? And more importantly, how much is Disney about to lose? Officially, the budget sits at around $269 million. But behind the scenes, insiders say it's even worse, with the real cost possibly creeping past $300 million, thanks to non-stop reshoots and costly delays. That's Avengers-level money, and it means this film has to crush the Disney box office just to break even, let alone turn a profit. But the early numbers, let's just say, they're not looking magical. And once those projections started slipping, so did Disney's confidence.
Back the planned lavish premiere for the show to have only a handful of tightly controlled media there. The film has been branded as woe.
At first, things didn't look too bad. Opening weekend was expected to land between $63 to $70 million. Not amazing, but still within reach. Then the numbers dropped fast. Now projections are down to $48 to $58 million, which is brutal when the film cost over $300 million to make. And Disney? They're clearly in panic mode. No flashy premiere, no press tour blitz. Ticket sales didn't even open until 11 days before release. It feels like they're hoping to fly under the radar and soften the blow. So what caused all this? It started the moment Disney cast Rachel Zegler as Snow White. At first glance, it seemed like a standard move, a fresh face for a classic remake. But online, it exploded. Why? Because for a lot of people, Snow White wasn't just a name. It was the defining trait of the character. Skin as white as snow is straight from the original Grimm brothers tale. And when Disney chose a Colombian-Polish actress to play the role, the internet split in two. If you're still here and already thinking, yeah, this movie's cooked, go ahead and hit that like button. It helps way more than you think. And trust me, things are only going to get messier from here. Some fans cheered for representation. Others felt the studio had rewritten the character entirely. And just when things could have cooled down, Rachel responded.
Is called Snow White in this version of the film, because of course she is not white as snow, is because she and her family go through a snowstorm and survive the snowstorm, and so it's a mark of her resilience.
What she said next didn't calm the fire, it poured gasoline on it. That's when the internet really split in two. Some praised the casting as a win for representation. Others called it a betrayal of the original character. But Rachel Zegler wasn't backing down. She addressed the backlash head-on, saying, Snow White is a fairy tale, a story that belongs to everyone. She even highlighted how loved the character is in Spanish-speaking countries, framing her casting as a fresh take on a global icon. But if she thought that would cool things off, it didn't. Because just as the outrage started to fade, Rachel reignited it, and this time, she didn't hold back. She called the 1937 Snow White dated and criticized the plot for centering on a love story with, in her words, a guy who literally stalks her.
And we absolutely wrote a Snow White that is
not going to be saved by the prince.
She's not going to be saved by the prince, and she's not going to be dreaming about true love. She's dreaming about becoming the leader she knows she can be.
And that was just the beginning, because her next comment would push the internet into full meltdown. While all eyes were on Rachel Zegler, there was one name that kept quietly floating through the controversy: Gal Gadot. She plays the evil queen in the remake, and at first fans were excited. Big name, perfect casting, what could go wrong? Then the interviews started. Clips surfaced where Gal looked stiff, distant, and some fans claimed totally over it. Others said the tension between her and Rachel was obvious. Rumors started swirling that Rachel Zegler hates Gal Gadot, and behind the scenes, things weren't as fairy tale as Disney hoped. And while Rachel was taking hit after hit online, Gal stayed silent. No defense, no pushback, just a quiet retreat while the internet lit up with speculation. Some took her silence as strategy. Others saw it as betrayal. But what came next made it clear. Disney wasn't ready to deal with either of its stars. She made one thing clear. Her Snow White wasn't waiting around for Prince Charming. No more damsel in distress. No more fairy tale romance.
Cartoon was made 85 years ago, and therefore it's extremely dated when it comes to the ideas of women being in roles of power.
But if that was off the table, what kind of story was Disney actually telling? In her own words, this wasn't going to be the same Snow White. Rachel described her version as empowered, a modern take where the princess saves herself. In a different era, that might have been a mic drop moment. But in 2025, it sparked a digital war. Some fans loved it. They said it was time Snow White got an upgrade, a bold lead for a new generation. But others, especially longtime Disney loyalists, saw it as the studio tossing its own legacy aside. Quick pause. What's your take so far? Is Disney evolving or erasing its own history? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I want to know where you stand. And suddenly, this wasn't just about Rachel Zegler Snow White. It became part of a much bigger fight, one that's been growing in Hollywood for years. Studios are pushing for more inclusivity, more diversity, but with every bold casting move, there's pushback from fans who want things to stay how they remember them. We saw it with Halle Bailey as Ariel. Now it's Rachel Zegler in the hot seat, and the debate keeps coming back to one thing: stay loyal to the original or rewrite it for today.
I never want it to come off as me being ungrateful for the opportunities I have. I can also be having the greatest time and simultaneously wishing people would stop sending me death threats.
But if you think the Snow White backlash peaked with her comments about the movie, wait until you hear what she posted after the 2024 election. Then came the 2024 election, and with Trump winning re-election, the internet was already in chaos. That's when Rachel Zegler jumped in. She posted on Instagram saying she was speechless in the midst of this, and that the country was heading toward a world I do not want to live in. But it didn't stop there. She added she feared for her future daughter some, and then dropped the line that lit everything on fire. May Trump supporters, Trump voters, and Trump himself never know peace. That post went out to millions, and the reaction was instant. Social media exploded. Boycotts were trending. Critics called her divisive, angry, and unfit to represent Disney Snow White. Even some fans who weren't political said she crossed a line. People began comparing her to Gina Carano, the Mandalorian star who got booted after her own controversial comments. A week later, Rachel issued an apology. She said she acted emotionally, regretted fueling division, and promised to be more respectful moving forward. Some fans accepted it, others didn't buy a word. To many, it felt like damage control, a scripted PR move once it was clear Disney had no interest in defending her.
They're remaking the movie, they just got rid of the dwarfs, okay?
Okay, but what do they call them?
Why
now,
would they
too?
get rid of the
call them
dwarves, though?
Magical creatures.
creature.
And speaking of the Mouse House, Disney's response, or lack of one, only made things worse. Let's be real, the political firestorm was just the final blow to a film that was already drowning in controversy. Now that the Snow White remake is officially out in theaters, the numbers are speaking loud and clear, and they're not good. For context, The Little Mermaid opened with $95 million and still barely turned a profit, crawling to around $569 million worldwide. Cinderella, way back in 2015, opened at $67 million. Snow White? It's struggling to even match that, despite costing nearly $300 million to make. Insiders say it'll need at least $800 million worldwide just to break even, and that's a target even recent Marvel hits have missed. Except those movies had massive fan bases and explosive action. Snow White, on the other hand, is dragging around controversy, fan outrage, and a lead actress who became the face of woke Disney backlash. If you think Snow White is just a one-time fail, think again. This is part of a pattern, and it's not looking good. In the past few years, Disney's big-budget bets have kept falling flat. Strange World lost millions and disappeared almost instantly. Lightyear barely lifted off, despite Pixar's name behind it. Indiana Jones 5 burned through cash and limped to the finish line. The Marvels collapsed under its own hype, becoming one of the MCU's worst openings ever. Now add Snow White, a film with a massive budget, non-stop backlash, and little box office momentum. And hey, if you're still here, you probably like content that actually digs into this stuff. Tap subscribe so you don't miss the next one. We break it all down without the fluff. It's not just a flop, it's a trend. And if this one can't pull through, it might be the final warning sign Disney's been trying to ignore. Unless something miraculous happens in the next few weeks, this could go down as one of Disney's biggest box office disasters ever. And if it does, that might be the moment they finally pull the plug on their live-action remake strategy. Because after years of squeezing nostalgia for profit, this flop might be the one that breaks the spell. The world has seen it now. The trailers, the backlash, the political firestorm, and the box office crash. And no matter how Disney tries to spin it, Rachel Zegler's Snow White has become the face of a remake era that's losing its magic fast. The numbers don't lie, the fans aren't quiet, and the fairy tale, it's hanging by a thread. If Disney doesn't wake up and rethink the formula, this won't just be another flop. It'll be the moment the empire cracks. What do you think? Is this the final warning shot for Disney's remake machine, or is there still hope for a comeback? Let us know in the comments. Hit like if you're watching this unfold, and subscribe for more breakdowns on the biggest stories in entertainment. The drama's just getting started.